For Honor is a pretty interesting hack and slash game. It is being published by Ubisoft and developed by Ubisoft Montreal, whom, if I'm not mistaken, are the same people who made Lord of the Rings Shadow of Mordor. Its current release date is set for January 14th, 2017 for PC, PS4, and Xbox One. I would like to disclose that this is in no way a sponsored video, and is just purely me giving a review based on the closed alpha version. Now, before I get started, I'll take the time to say that I'll leave the times in the description below on when each mode begins. So if you want to go ahead and skip to a specific mode, then go right ahead. If not, then let's get started on the basic overview here in the main menu. First up on the captain's list, we have the ability to customize our heroes. There are a total of 3 factions with 2 classes in each faction for the closed alpha. Whether or not there will be more factions is still unknown, from what I've looked up anyway, but I can safely assume that there will be more added, for the full release version of the game at least. The reason for this is because the story trailer for For Honor, a 4th faction was mentioned, instigating the other 3 to fight. It's a pretty cool trailer, and I recommend you check it out. Now I'm going to butcher the names here, but I'll do my best. So here we have the Warden, the Conqueror, Berserker, Raider, Kensai, and Orochi. Conqueror, Berserker, and Orochi are the difficult classes for each faction, but they provide the most difficult challenge to fight against if used correctly. In my time playing, I found it harder to fight these classes just because they can easily counter base classes without being staggered. So for this quick demonstration, I'll show off customizing your hero by selecting the Raider here. As you can see, you can customize just about anything for your hero, even down to the individual components of their weapon. Equipping better items provide better stats for your hero, so be on the lookout for what suits your hero the best. You even have a choice for gender, and even choosing what sort of colors your hero wears when in certain teams can be selected. Also, another thing to note is you can choose to have some parts of your hero's outfit not contain any colors if you desire. Ubisoft Montreal give the user an okay amount of customizing for this closed alpha, and I'm excited to see what else they add later on in the actual games in terms of customizing. So be sure to customize your hero first if you decide to pick this game up. I'll show her later on, but I referenced my Warden class to that of Solaire from Dark Souls, and she looks pretty fucking fantastic every time I battle with her. Players can even select different feats for when they level on the battleground, and select from different types of emotes and executions. One more thing I noticed is after every match, players get a chance to scavenge the battleground for items, which can be used for heroes. Use these items to either equip them to your hero or scavenge them for experience towards that class. You can even swap an item's visual appearance for another item that has actually better stats, which I find quite an interesting new idea. I've always seen the ability to wear another item over as an aesthetic item, but this feature lets you take it over entirely if need be. Just mess around with the customization menu and see what you can mix up yourself. Combat is interesting in this game, but in my experience I felt using a controller suits the controls a whole lot better. The reason for this is because while you're fighting other enemy heroes, you have a chance to deflect attacks as long as your guard is in that direction of the attack. So if we go back to the controller, it's a lot easier to move the thumbstick toward that angle direction of attack than the mouse because the mouse moves the camera angle the same time you're trying to defend. This is why I believe the controller is easier to move to defend than a mouse. You want to be patient and keep track of the UI display when an enemy attacks because it will give you a split-second indication of where your enemy is going to attack you. If you're being flanked by more than one person, then the game compensates for that by increasing a meter that you actually can't really see, but it allows you to activate this thing called Revenge Mode. When activated, Revenge knocks back any enemy heroes to the ground and increases your damage output exponentially, giving you the status of like a mini-boss. It's a great way to make sure you can handle your own if you're being flanked, but it's still quite difficult to deflect all those fucking attacks. There are special attacks to be aware of, such as using the environment to your advantage and executions. Environmental strikes range from things such as ditches, spikes, cliffs, ledges, and ladders. By simply running toward the end of an edge or ladder while an enemy is below your hero, it will show off an animation strike that will send him plummeting down with a powerful attack. It's a good way to kill escaping or unsuspecting enemies below. Then there are ditches and cliffs, where charging with certain classes can be beneficial to throwing them to the puncturing death below. Be careful fighting near these areas, however, or you're going to find yourself dead with a spike in your ass. Finally, there are executions where if you bring your enemy down to around 10 to 15% HP and strike a final blow to the remaining health, can give off a chance to activate one of two execution buttons, as if it were God of War, which brings me to my next interesting observation. One of the gameplay mechanics I found happened to be the camera angles. It reminded me a lot of God of War during duels or executions. This type of mechanic felt great because it brought a more cinematic feel to the battle you were in, and I felt more emotionally invested in each fight I was doing. It felt like every fight was a huge final boss squabble almost every time, and it was one of my favorite things in this alpha. Now, let's get on with game modes. There are currently only 3 modes available, and all can be played online PvP or against player AI. If a player cannot be found online for any team, then the game will substitute it with an AI for the meantime. Depending on what class the AI chooses, it can prove to be a challenging task in defeating the enemy team. As I said before, those hard classes for each faction are hard for a reason. So let's look at the first mode, which is 1v1 duel. This mode places you against another competitively with nothing else as a distraction. It's a best of 5 that really deserves no other explanation than you fighting for your honor. Puns. I will take this time to show off how difficult fighting against a hard class can be, using an easy one. It is not entirely impossible to beat a hard class, but it just requires a lot more patience than some. Notice here how Zero charges quite a bit, and that leaves me not to counter very well. Granted, I'm not playing very well either this match. So it's very important to make sure you evade charged pushes and attacks by mostly dodging or timing your attack, before your opponent can even do anything. If you can do that, then your fights with hard classes will be that much easier. So without taking up too much time on game modes, let's get on to the other 2. Next, we have a 2v2 that acts pretty much the same as 1v1, with the addition of another teammate and enemy opponent. Both of you will be placed on separate areas of the map to fight 1v1 against an enemy on the team, and as soon as one person is slain from that fight, the other can choose to watch the other fight or join in to ensure victory. Now, I didn't do this, but I'm fairly certain in the beginning you can choose to not even wait and just go ahead and meet up with your friend to gang up on their opponent early, if you feel like being an asshole and disregard honor. This mode also goes to the best of 5 as the other mode, and is more for those who just don't want to deal with the objective-based modes. Finally, we have the third and final mode I experienced in the alpha that I spent the most time on. 4v4 Dominion mode places you and 3 others against 4 enemy opponents in a capture the point/domination type mode. So if you played Call of Duty or Battlefield, then you pretty much have that down. Eliminate any enemies attempting to capture the point in order to capture it yourself. If there are no enemies in a point you control, your hero will heal over time. Having more control points grants your team more points accumulated over time for the whole team score, in which one team must reach to 1,000 points so that they can trigger this thing called break event. During this time, whichever team activated the event first have the ability to stop any enemy from respawning. If all members of that team are killed off, then the team is victorious. So getting to 1,000 and killing off any enemy team member early is the key to ensuring success. But be careful, because during any time, teammates have a small window to revive allies if their death counter hasn't gone all the way down. However, if a person is revived and defeated again, then they cannot be revived a second time. Oh, I forgot that one more factor needs to be played in order for breaks to become active. All control points need to be seized after 1,000 points to trigger this event. So as long as a team controls 1 point, then the break event cannot be triggered. So if this happens to you, make sure you tactically get control of other points as your teammates fight off the enemy. I don't believe the minions in the center control point contribute anything more than just pure aesthetic purposes to have like a distraction for battle going on. You can kill them and they provide some defense for a control point, but one person can easily kill them all in a good minute or less. So that's about all I can remember about the For Honor closed alpha, and my consensus is that I would recommend For Honor to those that enjoyed God of War style camera cinematics with improved Shadow of Mordor style of fighting, but more focused on single targets rather than a huge number of enemies. With that said, I encourage you to form your own opinion if you're still unsure about this by searching for more gameplay videos to make sure this is the type of game for you. Well, I believe that's it for this review, and I'd like to thank you for watching this video. If you enjoy my types of reviews, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button to help me out. If you have a game you want me to take a look at, you can go ahead and leave a comment below, or follow me on Twitter at Richy221. It's basically Richy without the I. So this has been your Captain Richy speaking, and I hope you enjoyed your time here with me, and I'll see you again.